Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got our best bets video up here for you guys across the NBA tonight. On Friday night, we've got an 11-game slate to choose from. Nate and I are bringing you a couple best bets each in this video. We've also got our player props video for you guys that we're bringing you each and every weekday, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also, head to thelines.com. We're putting all the great picks up there for you guys. And we have the odds finder tool up there on the site. You can make sure that you're getting the best odds available to you and all these bets that you are making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's just jump right into your first favorite pick from tonight. I believe we're talking Kangs and Dubs.
Yeah, it's the penultimate game for almost every team here playing, including the Dubs, who are only 2 games behind Memphis and own the tiebreaker. So technically could still move up. And that gives you some hope that their entire starting rotation, which is questionable, that those guys are going to play. Mike Brown, going up against the Warriors, you'd think he wants that get back a little bit. And look, they've covered all 3 times against the Warriors this season. They were all early in the season. Warriors did win 2 of those, but the one in Sacramento, of course, went Sac's way. So I see Dubs favored by 8-9 points on the road, and I don't care if they're playing a G League squad, right? They've covered once on the road in 14 games, once against the Houston Rockets. But honestly, do you not have more faith in the Kings like backups or a hodgepodge team than the Houston Rockets? I do. I mean, I think if necessary, we can throw out Terrence Davis, PJ Dozier, the Me Too movement, Chimeze and Kessler Edwards, and just say, let's go, we ball. The Kings are a really deep team. They have a good structure. Mike Brown's going to be coach of the year for a reason. And they seem like they're going to cover in this spot. I mean, they're 18-12 against the spread as dogs. That's only a 3-point margin of victory that they've had to cover. This is 9. They're 20-11 against the spread after a loss, too. And we were talking about them after they lost to the Spurs in overtime, like, oh man, are they just chilling till the playoffs? But no, they bounced back with a stellar defensive effort against New Orleans. Then they lose again, and now they get the Dubs. And this is very much like a big brother matchup, right? And you can't not hear all the chatter if you're the Kings that people are angling for the 6th seed. People want to get you, like you have no chance in the playoffs. And like, I mean, they're out to prove things still. And also, like, you're a young team. Why do you need to rest? On Sunday, you're playing the Nuggets JV team to wrap things up here. Like, why do you need to rest your starters when they get a full week off during the play-in, right? Like, they're young guys. They would rather be in rhythm, I think, and not rusty. And it's the Warriors still. 124 defensive rating in the last 14. Wiggins still not back. He's going through conditioning here. And they're giving up the most fast break points on the road since the break. They're turning it over 15 times a game. Kings are number 1 in transition defense since the break. So it's all the numbers you want to see from effort and from young guys hustling standpoint to say, look, they're going to be in this game just because even if a star or 2 sits out for the Kings, like I think they can still cover.
Yeah, 9 points is a lot. I don't trust the Dubs on the road either. I don't think anybody does. But I also kind of lean under if everybody doesn't play for the Kings, because I know how bad the defense is for the Dubs on the road. So's the offense, though. It's much different, and it's been that way even in the second half of this season since the All-Star break with guys like Clay, mostly Clay, and even Dante DiVincenzo and a few others playing better at home. I was going to throw Steph in there, but Steph scores 40 wherever he is when he needs to, but I don't think he feels like he's going to need to. So either the Kings are going to be in there, they're going to have a starter or 2 in the game in the rotation enough to hang with this team regardless, or they're not, and the Dubs are not going to take this seriously. And I don't think we'll see Steph Curry much past the third quarter in that point, whether it's a blowout or not. So I think there's an opportunity to even backdoor cover if things get to a double-digit lead for the Dubs and they take guys out. Great. Then you put other guys in, and the Kings are still kind of putting forth the effort. I mean, it's interesting, real quick, just as we're grinding down to the end of the season and really looking very, very hard each and every day to find value, as we don't necessarily know who's playing all the time and things of that nature. Who's going to bring it, and know who needs to win as well. Maybe the Kings don't necessarily need the win with that third seed nearly as much as the Dubs do. So there is a little bit of a care factor that you have to take into consideration. But I would argue that like if you take the situation last night where we were like, yeah, this Heat team over this 76ers team, the Sixers don't need it. Embiid just played a whole bunch of minutes to win a game, blah, blah, blah. Well, I bet the Sixers would have been way better if they had just played their backups who were trying from the jump versus the guys who clearly didn't give a crap, which were the starters. And that's what the Kings, if they go that route, I still like backups who are needing to play for their NBA careers and for minutes in the playoffs for guys like Terrence Davis who are trying to audition for that. There's plenty of reason to think that those guys are going to bring it. And I would actually feel just as good if they play their backups in this one against a Dubs team that don't be surprised if they're playing backup, the Kings backups and go down by 10 in the first quarter, second quarter. They are 0-24, 5 somewhere in there when they are losing at the end of the first quarter on the road this season. So if that's the case, go ahead and feel like maybe you can get some value on the Kings at the end of the first quarter if they are winning right now. So I'm going to move on to our second game here briefly and just talk about the Bulls and the Mavs. And man, what if the Mavs don't make the playoffs? It's seeming like it's pretty likely right now. I'm more just concerned with focusing on Chicago's offense and really lack of Alice's defense because they have no D. And DDR, DeMar DeRozan, friend of the show, and Zach LaVine, both questionable tonight. So obviously that puts a huge damper on it at least limits what their ability to score. But you would think. But at the same time, this season without DDR and Zach LaVine in the game, their offensive rating drops 2 points per 100 possessions. I mean, noticeable, but not like that big of a deal. 108 points is not that many. Dallas at home since the All-Star break, and they're worse at home, by the way, on defense since the All-Star break with 118.6 defensive rating, allowing 119 points a game. It used to be that they would, have 118 defensive rating and allow 114 points a game, but now they're playing at a much faster pace with Kyrie in their 98 pace since he's been there, 98 and a half or so since he's been there. They are allowing the 5th most rebounds per game and the 4th most assists to teams because they do not get defensive rebounds because they have zero low post presence. And they've allowed at least 113 points in 9 of their last 10 games at home since the All-Star break. And that I just looked it up to see if it was at least 108 points. It's actually at least 113 points every single 9 out of the 10 games at home since that break that they've been letting up. And Chicago's actually hit their number of 108 in 4 of the last 5 with Dallas. They were missing at least DeMar or Zach LaVine in 2 of those 5 games. And that was a different Dallas team. That was like the 6th best defensive team last year when they beat Chicago and held them to under 108 points. They had guys like DFS out there for them. Maxi Kleba hadn't been hurt all season like he is this year. So much better defensive team last year. And Chicago on the road is 7-3 straight up. They're 6-4 to the over. They are scoring 113 a game. I guess that's partly why I was looking at how many times they were able to score that. And they have the 3rd best field goal percentage, and they record the 8th most assists. So they're passing the ball well, even if they don't have their 2 stars in there. There's some pretty good ball movement going on for them in a way that I think that 108 points is just way too low against a Dallas team that cannot play defense.
Yeah, that's why I was interested in plus 11, too, as it continues to grow for the Bulls. I mean, I know they're going to be resting people, but it's the same kind of theory where, yeah, you got backups in there. You got guys trying to make a name for themselves. Kobe White has been balling lately, and who's to say, like, he can't score on Kyrie and Luka because they've been just giving up points to everybody. And, yeah, they had to crawl back to beat the Kings backups in their last game, right? I mean, yeah, Kings had their guys out there, sure,
Yeah.
but they're not blowing doors off anybody. It's everything we hear about. Yeah, the body language, the lack of leadership from Luka, and just this general malaise as they crawl into the playoffs. But I think, yeah, the team total is probably better. It's an NBA game. And 108 points is hard to go under, which brings me to the Knicks, where their total is 108. And I want to fade the Knicks offense here. That total, you should get like an extra bonus just for picking an under when it's this low in the NBA at this point, because
Agreed.
that is really scary. At the same time, though, look, they're without Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and probably RJ Barrett. They have a completely unsustainable shooting that over the last few games, including 107 points from Toppin, Quickly, and Quentin Grimes last game, the most ever by a Knicks trio. But that was against the Indiana Pacers, a team with absolutely nothing to play for and the worst defense of the last 7 games. They had gone under, in 4 of their previous 6 roadies prior to Jalen dropping 50 at Cleveland. Look, 3 of their last 4 without JB have come now against Portland, Houston, and Indiana. can't find three worse defenses. The other four, without JB, 1-3 straight up, averaging 102 points per game. And that was, with Julius Randle, with RJ Barrett, with other guys. Now it's like just these young guys trying to be the man against a New Orleans team with a lot to play for, a ton to play for, in fact, to try to stay out of the play-in. New Orleans team that's number 2 in defensive rating and points allowed in their last 10. And crucially, number 1 in 3-point percentage allowed on the season. Knicks are 5th in terms of the percentage they're scoring off threes in this 5-game win streak here. Pelicans are going under at home, 18-11 to the under when they're home favorites, 13-3 when they have a rest advantage. So under 224 is in play here. I like the Pelicans to win because I want to fade this Knicks offense. I do think there's a chance, though, just because it's the NBA, you never know with the pace that, the Knicks are going to lose with 110 up there or something. So if you feel that way, Pelicans teaser -4.5 with the under 228, I think is the way to go.
I didn't tell you this yet, but I don't love this pick. And I'll just say I'm not necessarily 100% against you. It is low. Obviously, that's a part of it. But I wonder if this Knicks team without JB and Julius and RJ Barrett in there is going to look a lot more like the team it just was when all those guys didn't play. And I understand that was the Pacers, and this is not the Pacers. The thing that scares you is the pace, as you were talking about. If you're led by Obi Toppin, Josh Hart, and then obviously Quickly, I should lead with Quickly and Grimes are your backcourt. And then you've got Josh Hart and Obi Toppin in there. The 105 pace they played against the Pacers, easy for me to say. The 105 pace they played against the Pacers was probably indicative of what they're going to be when they don't have those guys in there running the offense. This is now no longer a get the ball, get into your sets. Each of you get into your 3 spots between our, everybody get to their spots basically. And then we run the offense. This is a team that had 34 assists against the Pacers team. Once again, 0 defense in Indiana. There's no D there. So I'm not really saying it's the same. I do like the stats that you pointed out when they're playing a good defense versus a bad defense. We're going to see what the Pellies do on the road, right? They're at home in this one. So it's we know what they do at home in terms of playing better defense. But that last game, that was just so weird where they had to come back right against the Grizz, who didn't have Ja and anything, and that put everything over, which it was probably going to go under before that. They didn't really bring the defense, so I expect it more. But the thing that scares me about this pick is the pace that the team that the Knicks are going to be throwing out there might play at, to your point. So keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on, obviously, if RJ Barrett is in there as well. I think he's actually worse for the offense in this scenario where he might try to be the man. And that actually helps your under. And he's also been playing pretty good D as well, which would be helpful against the Wings on New Orleans big time. So let's finish things off here in Phoenix. We don't necessarily know who's playing 100% once again. A lot of guys questionable, including LeBron and AD. But if LeBron plays, this 226.5 over is a beautiful bet. And if he does not play, it's going to be a lot tighter. And you might have to sweat that out. But the over with 226.5 in this game with LeBron would be awesome. We kind of fail to realize that regardless of if the Lakers and Clippers are playing and the Lakers are playing good defense, like LeBron just speeds this team up to 120 points per 100 possessions when he's in there versus the 114 that they put up when he's not in there. The pace flies up right when he's in there as well. They go up from basically like a 100. They go up to 102 pace versus like a 98 when they were playing without him. Obviously, AD he impacts the defense more. I think we both agree that the defense is what we look at when AD is in there. The offense is going to come for him regardless, but it's really about LeBron when it comes to offense for this team and what pace they play at, right? They still have scored 115 a game in the last 7 that they played without LeBron, and they have that 118 offensive rating without him. So it's like pretty much the same. It just comes down to the pace, right? They basically have a similar, over their last 7 anyway, they have a similar offensive rating. It's just they're playing so much faster when LeBron is in there, get it and go, as he's a one-man fast break wrecking crew. So obviously, in terms of Phoenix, like we need their guys to play. I really don't want to have to bank on like Wainwright Isaiah Wainwright to have to score a bunch of points, for instance, or Josh Okogie. These types of guys, I'm not really hoping to have to bank on them to get offense tonight. So I'm really just banking on the fact that if those guys don't play and LeBron and AD do, maybe they score 70 in the first half, to be honest with you, because they just want to get this thing over with. And I think they know that they can beat up on the backups if we don't see Devin Booker and KD. So once again, stay on top of the injury reports. Make sure you know who's coming in and out of the lineups. And as soon as you see something that's a little bit more certain for guys playing or not playing, then you know how to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think we can go Lakers team total then with a little more confidence, right? Because they're going to be trying to get this win early, like you said. Also, the Suns are giving up the most free throw attempts since the All-Star break, which is money for those Lakers. I mean, Booker hasn't missed a game since February. He's been very reliable on back-to-backs. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul sits, though. And the last time the Suns had a back-to-back here, they did score 125 against the slow-paced 76ers. So certainly possible that they come out and score. But it's more about the Lakers, in my opinion, and their scoring. And then being on short rest. And we tried to say, even though the numbers indicate short rest, they go over, that we think they'll come out with a defensive effort against the Clippers, and they couldn't. They just couldn't find the energy, and they gave up like 70 in the first half again. So, I mean, even with backups, maybe the Suns are still going to be able to score because the Lakers are on short rest, and they're 9-3 to the over on 0 days rest this year, going over by 12.5 a game. They've gone over in 6 straight. I think you just keep hitting that number until you see otherwise.
Yeah, especially if it's in the 220s. And that number indicates that the books don't necessarily think LeBron is going to play. I don't think you would see that total if he's in there. But, like I said, stay on top of that and figure it out. Really interesting stuff at the very end here. The Lakers clinch with a victory. So I do think there's something to be said. Maybe you like a Lakers team total in the first quarter or over in that sense in the first half, as I think the scoring is going to be done a bit earlier in this one. And then we'll see what happens from there with who plays and who doesn't. So that is all the time we have for you, though, in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out the other video we have up for you today. Those player props we're bringing you, staying hot on those with you guys. And until we see you next, happy betting.